Alliance. He is the beast from Hollywood East, Michael the Hammer Mulligan.
Folks, Michael Hammer Mulligan here with Michael Polvere from Cage Titans. What's up, Michael?
How's it going, Hammer? How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. You know, I'm going to sit a little closer to you. It makes it a little easier. Shaney and I just did one on the beach. It was pretty fun.
Nice. I wish we were at a beach, but we're here on a 90-degree day with a fire in the background.
We do got a legit fire today. Just so you know, we are Fireside, not Beachside, not Cage Side, nothing like that. We're Fireside again. So listen, Michael, July 26th.
July 26th, Cage Titans returns to Plymouth Memorial Hall. You know, our home base. Beautiful place to watch some fights.
All right, so give me a rundown. Who do you got? Who's on the main card?
You know, our main event's going to be Tateki Matsuda, a 135-pound champion. He's defending the title against Ruben Ray from New England Combat down in Rhode Island. You know, both guys super tough guys. Ruben's a Bellator veteran, state champ wrestler. Tateki, you know, extensive Muay Thai background over at Sid Yatong. Purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu, so it should be a great fight.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, what are they, 135?
135, that's a 135 title.
Beautiful, beautiful. Who do you got? Who's next?
You know, our co-main event's going to be an unbelievable fight in the 125 division, pro division. We got Robbie LaRue, 6-2, fighting out of Clinch MMA. Multiple decorations in wrestling, Greco-Roman, All-American, state champ in high school. He's going to be taking on Billy Giovanella, 4-1 out of Connors MMA. Same thing with Billy, another state champ wrestler, wrestling pedigrees. Both really tough guys. Both ranked very high in the 125 division, so it should be a fun fight. Now,
these guys have been around for a while. I recognize both of those names, right?
Yeah, Robbie LaRue has been around for a while. Billy Giovanella has had some of his amateur fights with us. He's 4-1 as a pro. I think he was something like 5-3 as an amateur. So he's been around the block, so to say.
So anyway, those two guys have been around for a long time, right? Is that on? Cool. Those two guys have been around for a long time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like I said, Billy's 4-1, but I think he was something like 5-3 as an amateur, so he's been around for a long time. Robbie LaRue, Bellator veteran, fought some of the top guys around, so 6-2 record should be an awesome fight.
That's awesome. Now, how many fights do you think you got that night?
You know, it's tough to say. I mean, we're about 5-6 weeks out right now. We're scheduled at like 24. Last time we had 24. Injuries and things. We ended up at 17. So. It's tough to say this far out, but I'd say we're probably going to be around the 18 mark.
Good. Yeah, the 24 is a little bit much for me. I'm an old man. I like to go to bed early.
Trust me. I mean, that's the very difficult thing about matchmaking is, like, ideally you'd love to have 12 fights. A nice, quick, short night, all top fights. But you never know going in a sport where injuries are so rampant. Even it plagues the UFC. I mean, at the highest level, they had to cancel the show before because of injuries. I mean, you never know. So you don't want to book 12 and then run the risk of 6 falling out and you only got 6 fights. But then sometimes what ends up happening, you book 24 and no one gets hurt and you're stuck at 24. So it's a gamble every time you go out.
That happens to Gary a lot. That's funny. All right, so now tell me about amateurs. Who you got for amateurs? You got any amateur titles?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that we implemented in Massachusetts MMA was amateur titles, and we take a lot of pride in amateur titles. We want the best fighting for it, and we want them sticking around defending their titles. And that's a big cornerstone of this fight card. Last show, we awarded 4 new amateur champions. In this show, all 4 are going to be back defending their titles. In the 125 division, Ken Murphy puts his 5-0 record on the line against Jesse Gutierrez. Awesome fight. Jesse won his last fight at CFX, one of Gary's shows, by omoplata, which is unreal submission that you don't see often in the cage. So Jesse's looking to, kind of derail the Ken Murphy hype train. 135, newly crowned Manny Bermudez, who won last show via Kimura. Good fight, first round finish. All his wins are by submission. He's taken on Josh Santana from New England Combat. Josh is, he's been around fighting since 2010. He's not too known right now because he's taken some time off, but he made a splash in his return to the cage about 2 months ago. So he's looking to take out Manny Bermudez. Moving on to the 145 division, Russo, 5-0, the Russian wrecking machine, I'd like to call him. He won the title last event over Ricky Proctor, and so he's going to be defending this title this show against Peter Barrett. And many people know that have been around Cage Titans know Peter Barrett. He's a very colorful fighter, very entertaining. Out of his 7 fights, he's won Fight of the Night 3 times, so he's always bringing it. 150.
Now was that was an amateur? I'm sorry, Peter's an amateur?
Yeah, amateur title fight. These are all amateur title fights. So we got 125, 35, 45, 55-pound division. Dan Lopez won last show, beating Brian Allett in a nice 5-round decision war. He's taking on number 2 ranked RJ Latendra, coming down from the shop up in New Hampshire. He's actually a Dover cop up in New Hampshire, and he's coming down. He's 4-1, ranked number 2, big knockout power. So that should be an awesome, awesome fight. And then our last amateur title fight of the night is Ed Gillis. He's our heavyweight champ. Many might remember him from our show in Boston last year, where he knocked out Nick Fontek in a brutal, second-round knockout. He was losing the fight up to that point, and he swung that wild haymaker and knocked him out cold. So he's taking on Mario Gonzalez. And Mario Gonzalez hasn't fought in about a year and a half. He kind of semi-retired, but when he did retire, he was ranked number 1 in the amateur division, and he's popping out of retirement to kind of, take that belt home with him.
Nice. So that's a handful. There's a heck of a lot of amateur championship fights, amateur belt fights.
Yeah, that's what we're all about. We really want to push these amateurs and let them have a chance to shine and give them something to fight for. I mean, that was the biggest thing. When I fought amateur, there was nothing. The light at the end of the tunnel was going pro. And these amateurs just put just as much time in as these pros, and we want to give them something to strive for. I mean, in coming out as an amateur champion, we're recognizing the best of the best in the region, and then they come back, defend their title, so they feel that pressure, and then when they're ready to go on pro, we take them on. So.
All right. I'm starting to like this a little better. I never cared for the belt thing for the amateurs too much, because I always thought that once this guy got his amateur belt, he's ready to move on to the pros. So what you're saying is now he's got something to obtain, and then he's got the option to keep going with the amateur belt, and people can try and take it away, and it gives him a little bit more pressure trying to keep the belt, and it gives him a little bit more experience.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. Amateurs are about getting experience. Before amateur belts are around, and this is another big reason why we implemented the amateur belts, is that guys would have 1 or 2 amateur fights and then go pro, because they wanted to just jump pro, because they had no, like I said earlier, they had no goals, they had no reason to stay amateur. They'd rather go pro and get paid. Now some of these guys weren't ready. So by these amateur belts, it keeps them around, gives them experience, gives them tough fights to prove that they're the best of the best in the region. And then we only want the best of the best going pro, with our company. So that's why we have them.
That's an awesome explanation. All right, I'm kind of more for it now. I was never for it before. I just didn't see the sense, and I wanted him to, like Shane, I want him to go and do a bunch. I don't want him to leave after 2. I want him to do a bunch of amateur fights before he goes pro. Because bottom line is there's a do-over. If you do you lose a fight as an amateur, you get a do-over. Once you go pro, your record's clean. You start again. But what you're saying is the way that you designed it is to make it so that these guys will stay around longer. They have something to strive for. I get it.
Yeah, that's and we want these belts to mean something. We're not I know some reason why people aren't supportive of these belts and giving out belts to everybody is that you want to say you have an amateur title so you can sell more tickets. That's not what this is about. This is about having the best of the best, representing our company, representing our titles, and giving them reason. We want guys that have 6, 7 amateur fights. We want guys that have had first-round finishes. We want guys that have had 5-round wars. So when you go pro, you've been there, done that, seen it all.
So now if and this will probably draw some guys to a fighter that they wouldn't normally fight as well, because if a guy's got the belt and he couldn't get a fight with him before, now that guy's going to want to fight him because he's going to want to take his belt.
Exactly. I mean, as amateurs, you're trying to get your feet wet, so maybe your first couple fights you might take easier fights, and then you maybe try to avoid that tough fight because you don't want to blemish your record. Here it is that if you want a belt, you got to fight the number 2 guy behind you. And if you want to fight for us, we're expecting you to defend that title. We're not looking for you to win the belt and then go run and not fight any tough fights. Basically, when you win that belt, we're saying, hey, you're taking the responsibility that whoever we put in front of you, you're going to fight. And we've had some great success with our amateur champions, sticking with our company and really showing what we designed these belts for.
The innovator. All right, I like it. I'm sold on this. Now, tell me about the best fight of the night in my eyes.
Oh, I'm assuming you're alluding to your son who's making it. No bias over here, but so assuming you're talking about Shane Mulligan, Shane the future Mulligan. He's been around for a little while. He's been training since he's 11 years old, I believe. Yep. I saw a video of yours, the last Fireside, showing some pictures of him with Pat Schultz and Gresh at training at age 11. He just turned 18. He just graduated Plymouth South. He's a Plymouth guy. Cage Titans is in Plymouth at Memorial Hall. So we're excited to have him on board fighting for us against Edwin Flores, who's 1-0 from New Hampshire. He has a big finish on his resume. The guy didn't answer the bell after the first round with Edwin. He's a tough kid, and what I enjoy about you is you're throwing Shane right in the fire, so to speak, and you're putting him in a tough test, which is great, and I appreciate that, and we're looking forward to having him on the card.
Well, he's had some tests in the past, doing some Muay Thai fights and doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but this is ultimately his biggest test yet. This is what he's been striving for. This is kind of what he's been going for since he was a kid, so it's a nice thing. Now, do you know why actually did the kid not answer the bell? Do you know?
From what I saw about the fight, or what I heard about it, or his coach kind of told me, is that he's fighting the guy Phil Lemaire, who had a kickboxing background. I believe it was his first MMA fight, and it was a pretty ugly back and forth, kind of brawlish type fight, and the guy just quit on the stool. I can't get into his head and say why he did. Sometimes it's just, you realize you don't have that drive to get up off the stool. I'll tell you, my honest to God truth, my first fight, my first amateur fight, I was a cardio machine, but I sat there in between the first and second round and said, what am I doing? Do I really want to get off this stool? I mean, it was intense, and I looked around, I heard the fans screaming, I said, all right, get up. Yep. That kind of like the Rocky moment, get up, you son of a bitch, because Mickey loves you. And, I got off a stool, and I ended up winning the decision, but I don't know why that guy didn't get off the stool, but he didn't get up off the stool, and so should be interesting.
So this is going to be a battle. This ain't a joke. This, I know we alluded to getting them easy fights for the start. This isn't a 5-0 guy, but he is a 1-0 guy. He is somebody that has already been in the cage. He's already competed. He's already won his first battle. He's got his taste of blood. He likes it. He's coming back for more. So Shaney's not jumping in the ring with a meathead. He's jumping in with a real fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the interesting thing. We're trying to match up Shane. I mean, being an 0-0 guy, just graduating high school, it's like, but he's been around the block. It's not like he's your typical first-time guy that's out there that hasn't done anything. Right. He's competed in smokers. He's wrestled. So he's been there in the competing elements, pancration. So it was an interesting kind of fit to get somebody. He's not your typical no experience 0-0 amateur. He definitely had experience. So this guy should be a good test for him.
That's awesome. I can't wait for that one. I'm going to be biting my fingernails off cage side. All right, Mike. Yeah, I can't wait for this fight. Listen, let's talk. I want to go back to the belt thing. I want to talk about, because I was intrigued by, I have my reasons why I didn't care for it. I thought it was just, the ticket thing never entered my head, actually. I was more concerned. I'm always thinking about the fighters, I'm always thinking about, what is it going to do for them? I loved your explanation. Now, to go a little bit further with that, maybe you could tell me, like for instance, Brian Sparrow was your champion amateur belt winner, right? At what weight?
He was 170 amateur champion.
All right, so he's a 170. What has he done since?
Well, he came to us as a 1-0 pro, and he ended up rattling off 4 wins, 4-0, won our amateur title.
He came to you as a 1-0 amateur.
1-0 amateur, and since then, he's gone on and he made his pro debut 2 weeks ago, actually, down at CES in Rhode Island, and he won, I believe, 3rd round submission against a pro boxer, actually. And it was a very tough fight, back and forth. It was the first time Brian's ever been out of the first round. So we're all about, giving these guys the test so when they go pro, they're ready.
All right, now, do you have any that have gone further than that? Got 2 or 3, 4 wins?
Yeah, some other past amateur champions. Frank Sforza won our first ever 145-pound amateur title. He was an undefeated amateur. He was a state champ wrestler, tons of credentials, won our amateur title, then went pro, rattled off 3-0 pro record, and won our pro belt at 145. And not only did he win our pro belt, he won the Cage Fighting Extreme pro belt at 145. So that's just to give you an idea who holds our belts. Rob Font's another perfect example. Rob Font was a 155-pound amateur title holder. He's gone on to pro. I believe he's 5-0 now, ranked #1 in New England, and he's fighting for a title down at CES in Rhode Island in 2 months from now, and he's probably the hottest prospect right now in Massachusetts.
See, so that's nice. That makes a lot more sense. And now I kind of get it now. Now you're actually building champions. You're bringing them to a level where once they win your belt and defend it a couple times, they really are ready to go on into the pro world.
Absolutely. You know, what was happening in the past, you have a guy go 2-0, 3-0, never really have a test, and then go pro, and then his first taste of adversity would be in the pro ranks, and it counts then.
Yeah.
You know, he hadn't gone, you know, he hasn't had the chance to get up off the stool. He hasn't had a chance to go 3 rounds or even 5 rounds in these defenses. So, you know, they jumped to pro, and then all of a sudden they're 0-1 as a pro because they weren't ready. And we want to make sure that these guys are ready. And, I mean, amateurs are practice.
Yep.
I mean, it's practice to be a pro. It all resets, and when you're a pro, it's 0-0.
Yep.
So we want to make sure we're developing guys and that they're prepared.
Mike, this is a great interview. I'm enlightened now on the amateur belt thing. I like it. I changed my ruling. All right, I flip-flopped. I'm Mitt Romney. I'm flip-flopping. But, yeah, thank you very much for coming. So we got July 26th at Memorial Hall. Now, is that a Friday or a Saturday?
Friday night. You know, usually we are on our normal Saturdays, but Friday night this time out, you know, during the summer they have some summer comedy event that they do the last weekend of July, so it kind of bumped us. But we're Friday night this time. It's the only time we do a Friday night show, but July 26th, Plymouth Memorial Hall. Make sure you come out.
Friday night at the fights, folks. All right, Mike, thanks for coming to another Fireside Chat. It was great to have you. Guys, July 26th, Memorial Hall, be there. If you don't know how to get there, get a hold of me on Facebook. Get a hold of Mike at
CageTitansFC.com or Facebook.com/CageTitansFC.
There you go, folks. Thanks for coming to another Fireside Chat.